Hello folks, today is Friday, September 22nd, 2023. As usual, my name is Jake Baldino, here to talk about the video game news that has been going on this week. And we do have to keep this episode a little short because there are a lot of games to review and talk about behind the scenes that I'm still working on, so keep your eyes peeled for before you buy videos. But it was a crazy news week, so we got to jump into one of the biggest stories, and it's probably going to take up a lot of this episode, but it's all those Xbox leaks. Have you heard about that? If you are a person who spends some time online, it has been a wild week. So essentially, because of the whole FTC and antitrust hearings and stuff, the Activision Blizzard, Microsoft stuff that's been going on for so long, that we've talked about for so long, evidence and documents need to be uploaded for the FTC, but apparently there was a mistake. There was a whoopsie. Somebody flipped the wrong switch, and a lot of documents that shouldn't have been made public have been made public. So people have had access to correspondence of top-level Microsoft and Xbox executives and plans for multiple years, and we've gotten so many things to come out of this. One of the biggest headlines, and the thing that I want to talk about the most, it's not the inside baseball or the business stuff, it's the games. So there is kind of a roadmap, a rough roadmap of games that Microsoft has, you know, in the oven, so to speak. Now, Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, has come out and said and implied that some of these plans are old and outdated, and there's probably some truth to that if you look at the calendar and how things line up and some releases and how they were shifted, sure, but a lot of this stuff is probably still going to come out at some point. And it looks like we've got a pretty good look at some Bethesda titles that have been in the works. We've seen listed, of course, the Indiana James? Who's Indiana James? Excuse me. But then other crazier things like Fallout 3 and Oblivion remasters, which is cool. Not the biggest surprise. Kind of saw that coming, but still. Also, Oblivion remake people online have doubled down and said that whether or not Bethesda does this, they're going to still work on their community project no matter what. So hats off to them. But also, Dishonored 3 was floated. Ghostwire Tokyo 2, which I don't know about, I don't know how much truth there is to that one, depending on how that did. Also, a game called Doom 0 Year, then later on, Doom 0 Year DLC. And then there's also these other things in the calendar, specifically titled Project Kestrel, Project Platinum. We don't know what those are. Still, if this is true, or a lot of this tracks, that is a lot of stuff to potentially look forward to. There is so much to dive through and break out through this news. If you do care about this stuff, I will link all the sources and stuff in the description down below, but we have literal reactions from Xbox leadership about PlayStation 5 when the PlayStation 5 was revealed, and Xbox feeling confident about their machine. We also have Phil Spencer himself talking about possibly acquiring Nintendo. It sounded more like top-level conversations. It sounded like something they would say, yeah, sure, we would love to do that, but that's crazy. But there was some interest in there. I think corporations are always doing the math and always looking to acquire pie-in-the-sky things, whether they do it or not. But this did set people off because it felt very much, in terms of messaging, that Microsoft just wants to gobble everything up if they could. What a weird alternate reality world we would live in if Nintendo was owned by Microsoft. Could you even imagine that?
Mario on Game Pass?
Mario versus Halo, man. One thing, speaking of Halo, worth pointing out is that in a lot of this stuff, Halo didn't really come up. Now, there was conversation in these emails about Microsoft actually stressing what a lot of us had speculated, where there was a gap between the Xbox Series X console and a lot of flagship titles. There was a pretty significant gap where there weren't a bunch of heavy-hitting games, and they were very well aware of that and trying to rectify that for the future. But interestingly enough, in a lot of these emails, Halo never came up. There's no seemingly future plan for Halo or a big revival for Halo, at least anytime soon for the next couple of years. This huge leak also involved spreadsheets and PowerPoints and stuff, so we get to see more ideas of Xbox's roadmap for the future in terms of streaming devices, a possible Switch-like device, all kinds of stuff. It seems like they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And again, how much of that stuff is actually in the works, how much of that was just conceptual or canceled, we don't know. But there was some streaming stuff, some interesting stuff there, but the biggest thing is a new Xbox Series X, a Series X revision, where it's not an Xbox, it's an X cylinder. But it is still very much an Xbox Series X, but it's apparently going to be more efficient. USB ports on the front, consuming significantly reduced power, like 15%, improved Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi 6E, I assume, bigger, like more internal storage, 2 terabytes at this point, and it has the code name Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is spelled not right. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's a reference to.
Also, how are they going to take a circular console and not let me put my circular disc in it?
Yeah, so that's the other thing, is that it doesn't have a disk drive. So that this is like an all digital update or revision. And as someone who still likes physical media, or at the very least the option, I don't want the next console revision to be strictly digital only. That's kind of whack. Also, with these improvements, and it seemingly being cheaper for Microsoft to manufacture, as of right now, the price is slated to be the same. Along with this, it looks like it's tracking for 2024, but again, these plans could be old, they could be new, they could change. I have no idea. Take all this with a grain of salt, but it seems like this Xbox is definitely going to be a thing. We've talked about PlayStation 5 revisions, Xbox revisions. The time is coming near for these things to be tweaked a little bit, slimmed down, and hopefully for the consumer cheapened, but this is what we know right now. Also, they're apparently refreshing the controller with more haptic feedback and stuff like that. So that's pretty nice too. But again, all of this stuff linked in the description down below if you want to read up on it. There's so much inside baseball and stuff to fuel console war conversations, and I'm not really going to participate in that. I just thought some of this stuff was interesting. So let me know what you guys think, because there is a lot of stuff going on. What do you think about this Xbox revision? What do you think about Xbox's plans moving forward? Are you not interested? Are you just a PlayStation fan? There's always just a lot to talk about with Microsoft. It's weird. They're always in the news cycle, whereas Sony just kind of does their own thing. Nintendo kind of just does their own thing.
Hey, jumping over at home real quick to talk about today's sponsor. We're going to talk about learning for a second. Now, this is something I struggle with. As I've gotten older, I find it harder to sit down and learn new things. I mention it on the Friday show sometimes about not being too smart, but thankfully, today's sponsor, Brilliant, makes it easier. When you go to brilliant.org, there are thousands of lessons, from foundational and advanced math to artificial intelligence, data science, and more. And they add new lessons monthly, so if you've already checked, you should check again. Now, the thing here is that Brilliant's approach is hands-on. You learn practically. You learn by doing, right? So you're not just memorizing facts or formulas, you're actually being creatively guided through and really shown how things work. Since we started working with Brilliant in the summer, I started learning programming from like the most novice level, and Brilliant used fun games and puzzles to explain to me how coding actually works. When you start, they ask you some questions to really tailor your learning preferences, and then you jump in and learn and grow, spending just a few minutes each day. And for my gamers, they actually offer their own versions of XP and leaderboards, so it can be fun. So to check it out, start your 30-day free trial by clicking the link in the description down below or heading to brilliant.org/gameranx. And the first 200 people that sign up will get 20% off their annual subscription. That's a sweet deal. Knowledge is power. We're hooking you up. So check that out, brilliant.org/gameranx, and big thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring our videos.
In other news, Tokyo Game Show is going to be going down. We're recording this a little bit earlier, so we may not be able to cover all the big news coming out of it, but it does seem like we're going to get more of a look at Silent Hill F or other Konami Silent Hill games, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll probably talk more about that next week, but we did get to see a Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase. That is going down, and there's a lot of people have been waiting to hear more from Dragon's Dogma 2 for a while, because the Dragon's Dogma fiends are real, and we got that announcement a while back, but nothing really to eat on, and now thankfully there is something. Speaking of Japan, we do have some Yakuza news. We got a new look at The Man Who Erased His Name. It is looking awesome, incredible. I love Kiryu so much, and we know this is apparently going to be coming to Game Pass day one, but also a big deep dive on the next full mainline Like a Dragon game, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It has a release date now. It's officially coming January 26th, 2024, one of the first big games of the new year. And this game looks buck wild. You're riding around on segways on the beach, you're punching dudes, you're engaging in so many mini games. I really like these games, so I'm excited for all this Yakuza goodness, or really Like a Dragon goodness coming out. But also in Infinite Wealth, Danny Trejo is in it. So that's a thing.
And Daniel Day Kim.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. All right. Yeah, like I said, though, in terms of Japan, Tokyo Game Show, really, more stuff we'll update on you next week. But hopefully, we're eating good this weekend. Also, in terms of a Unity update, Unity, of course, rolled out plans of how they would charge developers as like a pay-per-install type of thing. And that would affect developers of all sizes, big and small. And basically, the whole game industry is united behind saying, screw this. Unity has put out more statements, and nobody was really happy. And now, apparently, they are going back to the drawing board, and they're going to come out with like a revised plan or something. I don't know for sure. I've heard internally things are a nightmare, like it's a war on the inside as well, like nobody can agree. But we covered a lot of that stuff last week. What I wanted to share this week, at least since that's all we know right now, is that they're just going to say something soon. What we have here, I linked a really great piece from gamesindustry.biz that interviews some developers and just kind of how they feel about Unity going forward, and how even if they revise their plan and it's better, there's a lack of trust there behind this big suite of game makers' tool sets that so many developers use. You know, it might change in the future. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it is a really good piece. I wanted to link this, some homework for you guys, because I always say here, we talk about video games so much, we might as well be well read on them. So check out that gamesindustry.biz article. Also, suddenly, seemingly randomly, not a Tokyo Game Show, Ubisoft decided to announce The Division 3. It's official. It's going to be a real thing. Director Julian Garrity is going to be on it, but they are, of course, working on Star Wars Outlaws, so this is definitely a ways off, but it is now officially announced, so we know it's coming eventually, at least. Kind of a weird, anticlimactic announcement, but hey. Also, some games dropping this week. Just briefly, Mortal Kombat 1 is now out. I played through the campaign. It's cool as hell. I just like these characters, and seeing them remixed is kind of fun. The combat's also a blast. I'm not like a diehard fighting game fan, but I do like NetherRealm's packages, what they put together. I still really want Injustice 3, but for the meantime, I really like this story. I like Fire God Liu Kang. I like Mortal Kombat 9, 10, 11, and Mortal Kombat 1 is also pretty up there. There's little things here and there, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's worth checking out if you're into those types of things. But also, Witchfire, the first-person shooter from like the people behind, I think, Vanishing of Ethan Carter, but also Painkiller. This incredible-looking game is so up my alley, and now it's in early access. And I'm so pissed. I don't have time to play it. There's still a million things. Starfield, Baldur's Gate, Liza P, Mortal Kombat, Cyberpunk, and now Witchfire. I will find time to play that at some point, but I just wanted to link that and let you guys know, because I didn't know it was releasing. Also, Payday 3, it seems like people are loving that so far. We're probably going to try and squeeze in a video on that at some point. That might be Falcon, not me, but Payday 3 is another thing. Also, Cyberpunk's 2.0 update did drop. This significantly overhauls the game. I've been checking in with the game. Every big update, 1.5 made a difference, but 2.0 definitely seems like it has a lot of substantial changes. It's different leadership, just kind of really changing up and overhauling a lot of fundamental aspects of the game. So we're going to be checking that out, but also the Phantom Liberty DLC expansion that drops next week. So we're probably going to package that all in one video. I am currently playing it right now. I know reviews are out, but we wanted to show our own capture footage. So keep your eyes peeled for next week for Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty 2.0 DLC video type of thing from yours truly.
Also, I mean, if you were looking for even more video games, the Resident Evil 4 Remake Separate Ways Ada Wong DLC is out now. So another thing to play on my list. I'm really looking forward to finding time to check this one out, because I loved it in the original, and it seems like there's a lot of stuff here that is very recognizable, but I want to see it with this new remake spin.
Also, I don't know how much validity there is to this, but there is a rumor floating around. We saw this on the Game Post, source linked below, that Bungie's new game is codenamed Gummy Bears. This is like new IP. It is going to be apparently powered by Unreal Engine. And according to Game Post, it is like a PvP game that is unannounced, but it's going to cobble together a bunch of different elements from different competitive games like MOBAs and stuff. That's all we really have. We know Bungie is working on a lot of stuff. So now we have whatever they're doing with Destiny, this unannounced IP, and then of course what they announced a couple months back with Marathon, which is going to be more of like a competitive extraction shooter type of thing. So they're sticking with what they know, but hopefully this Project Gummy Bears, if that is really a thing, they get a little weird with. Also, it'd be great if it was just actually a game about gummy bears. It's probably not going to be, but I digress. You like gummy bears? Gummy bears, yes or no? People think I'm weird because I like gummy bears. They're delicious.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, gummy bears are awesome.
I agree. You ever put them on ice cream?
Yes.
They freeze. They get kind of hard, and then they turn into like gummy stones,
Yeah.
but they're still good.
They're great.
Also, just wanted to share something cool. Link it in the description down below. Some Spider-Man 2 updates. Previews dropped last week. I put out a video detailing as much as I could some of the swinging mechanics and just some change-ups to the world. So check that video out. If you shared it, because I kind of revealed some stuff that not a lot of people cared about, but some people did who care about the web swinging mechanics. If you shared that, thank you. I appreciate that. But I also want to share IGN's interviews and stuff like that because they talked to some developers who detailed the modes with ray tracing and also the fact that there's going to be a 30 FPS mode, a 40 FPS mode for variable refresh rate if you have a 120 hertz TV, which I'm excited about, and also a 60 FPS mode. So the options are cool. Also, along with that, friend of the show, Gamertag Radio, Paris and Danny got an interview with the Spider-Man devs who revealed that you will actually see the other Spider-Man going around town doing their thing, swinging around, stopping crimes. And I can confirm that I was able to jump into a crime in progress as Peter Parker, where Miles was already kicking some bad guy asses, and then I jumped in and we did like team up moves and stuff. There's some cool stuff going on. I hope the final product is good. We're going to be doing a before you buy on that when that drops. October is very busy. There are a lot of games coming out, so keep your eyes peeled and stick with me. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to look tired the whole time, but it's going to be worth it. That's what we got going on this week, but let me know in the comments what you think about all the news. Of course, the crazy Microsoft leak chaos stuff. Out of all those sound bites, out of all those headlines, what was the thing you actually found the most interesting? Like, let's take a step back and extrapolate. Like, what is actually the most interesting to you? What is the most indicative of Microsoft's actual intentions? Let's talk about anything with that. Let's talk about what you're playing this weekend. Of course, we have a pinned comment, so let me know if you're playing Mortal Kombat 1, if you're still on Baldur's Gate, if you're just playing, I don't know, Freedom Fighters on GameCube. Like, let me know whatever game you're playing this weekend, pinned in that comment. Thank you. And of course, all the gaming news this week will be down in the comments as much as possible, but if you ever want to yell at me directly, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads maybe, and YouTube at Jake Baldino. But thank you guys for being here, getting caught up with us with the news every single week. Really, really appreciate it. We're always here for you. All you got to do is click the like button. It does legitimately help me. But all I ask is that you have a great weekend. Be safe. Pizza's on me.